Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that like it's actually taught until you like grief, right? The emotion, the stages of it is actually taught until you go through something, which is kind of backwards because it's like you're not really, you know what I'm saying? Like you go through it, right? And if you're not pre-prepared, which is prepared, right? Pre, you know, prepared, right, for something, then how can you actually like really be present, really be intentional with those emotions? And I think as a society, going back to, like how you said, well, when we're young and how women, were made to or were made out to be emotional, and little boys is like, suck it up, be a man or whatever. Like, to me, all of that, like just the whole society, and the cultural norms that we have now, like they're set up, like literally for us to have these fallacies and like this just crazy thinking about ourselves as humans to suppress what we feel. We don't talk through like when we talk generally, right? Unless you're trying to like really self-actualize. You don't talk from a place of what I feel, and then when you do, people, no, I wouldn't necessarily say that they make fun of you, but it's not well received because up until, 3 years ago, I was not communicating from like, when you do this, it makes me feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're not taught that way to communicate your feelings, and then something happens to you, like something drastically happens to you to where you have to grieve, and the first thing you may go through is bargaining. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like, no, if I do this, this person will do this or whatever. Like that's the first, maybe that's the first stage that you go through. I don't know. um how can you, I don't know, just like grow, as a human. Like, I don't know, we're taught from a society perspective to really, really be muted and stunted as far as just growth as evolved humans.
I think that you're right to say that we're not really taught about grief until we actually have to mourn the loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that a head start to that when you are a child is when you're allowed to honor your emotions and when you're allowed to be sad and process that sadness and deal with it and acknowledge it and sit in it. I think that those who fall into that bucket or that category, they have a little bit of a head start because they have a more healthy relationship with sadness. So when they do have to go through a really traumatic breakup or they lose a loved one, they have some tools to process it and
Mm-hmm.
to honor how they feel and to move through that sadness and kind of work with it to be a better person or to
For
get
sure.
through it in a healthy way. So I don't think, I think that you're right to say that we aren't taught to process it, but I think that some people have more of a head start than others when
Yeah, that's
they
for
are
sure.
taught at a young age that it's okay to feel how you feel.
Yeah, that's
Um,
for sure. I mean, like I did it with, my child very young, and I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. I was just like, no, I'm not going to, like shut you up. Like if you don't, like if you feel sad or you feel some kind of way, like feel that way. I
mhm.
mean, there's certain boundaries, right? Like you can't be up in here like kicking walls.
I think that's anger.
I mean, I'm just saying, and slapping me, girl. I'm just saying. These kids be wilding and the parents be letting them.
Banging your head on the wall.
Yeah, you definitely can't be doing that. But like, that's one thing that I did, just kind of like instill in my child. I was like, hey, you happy? You happy? If you sad, you sad. If you want to cry, you cry. Like I never one time was like, suck that up. Like you fall, get back up. Like never one time did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I didn't have like the loss of a loved one when I was, coming up, or I mean, my grandmother passed away, but we weren't very close, so I don't think I really had to grieve when she passed away. My first experience with grief was when I broke up with my first love,
Oh.
and I can remember like literally feeling like a big part of me was gone. Like it was, a hole in my heart. And I had all of these like feelings of like sadness inside of me, feeling of depression or not wanting to get out of bed or not wanting to eat, stuff like that. And I was just like, damn, like what is going on with me? Because I never, had anyone or didn't really communicate, sadness and loss ever before in my life. I just remember like feeling all these things and like, what the fuck? Like it literally feel like somebody died, but this person is still on earth, but it feels like they're dead. And, but still, like naturally, I just kind of set in it and no, you know what? I don't even know. Maybe it was naturally, but I think I read a book.
Hmm.
Um, And it wasn't like a book about like processing grief. It was just like a drama book. But in that book, like they process uh, a breakup. And I think like in that book, it was just like, this will pass and I'll be good again one day or I'll be myself again or whatever. And so I guess I just took that advice from that book and I just kind of like sat in it and I processed it. I got through it the best way I can. I fucking crawled, barely made it out, but I did. And I remember like at the end of it, like I was renewed. I felt amazing. And so I did have that as a reference point moving forward because I've never had to process grief until I actually like broke up with somebody. That was like my first time. So I want to ask you, and I want both of us to do this. So I want you to, just tell about a recent experience or an experience where you process grief in a healthy way and then an unhealthy experience of processing grief. And I can go first too. So, um, I'll start with the healthy experience of processing grief. And it was actually just recently and you already know about it, you know who this person is, but like this last relationship that I got out of, it was just recently. It was probably like actually at the beginning of this year. And I was really excited about this guy. We seemed very compatible and we were moving forward and we like made it official. We were together and it wasn't even like we wasn't even together for a long time. It was probably like 30 to 60 days. And that's probably why I was able to get over it faster. But I remember like however it happened and we broke up and I was talking to my friend and she was like, girl, fuck him, let's do this, let's go out, let's fuck him, he ain't shit, whatever, he don't deserve you, all of that shit that your friends will tell you. And I can remember like first like yeah, I dodged the bullet, whatever, whatever, but then I was like looking in the mirror and I looked at myself and I was like, oh my god, you are sad. And I looked sad like deep down, like I was staring at my soul and she was sad. And I remember just from there I just allowed myself to be sad. I allowed myself to like lay in bed, not wanting to do shit, but like watch love movies and fucking drink margaritas or whatever the fuck. And, just like kind of just deal with, and I remember it just like kind of just going through me. And, after probably a week, I ain't even gonna say it was a long time, maybe a week or two, like I was good. But I allowed myself to just be in that sadness and let it like work itself out. And it just like naturally like, every day you wake up a little bit stronger. You know what I mean? Not even
Mhm.
like every day, maybe every other day or every 3 to 4 days. Like you get up and you're a little bit stronger and it's not as painful and you can do just a little bit more. You probably, you wake up and you think about them as soon as you open your eyes, as soon as you become consciously aware, you think about them and you think about them as soon as, he's the last person you think about when you close your eyes, that type of shit. And then like as you process it, maybe you think about Instagram when you first open your eyes, and then like after you realize that you up and you think about them, like your brain is like, damn, you supposed to be thinking about, oh dude, then you think about them, but it's not as serious as it, as deep as it was, like, when you first broke up. So that was my recent experience of healthy
So
grief.
that
How
was
about you?
healthy. That was
That was
healthy.
healthy.
Okay. 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 I would have to say, healthy grief. Um, I would say just grieving and feeling, actually, just going through and processing my feelings with my just recent kind of health situation. Like
Mm,
going through it and just being like, okay, like you may not be there now, but you'll get there, because if you think about, 3 months ago where you were and where you are now, like it's drastically different. And, just kind of like literally allowing myself to be sad, allowing myself to cry, allowing myself to laugh at myself, allowing myself, like you said, to go to sleep, and shit. I'm taking these naps. Look, don't wake me up. You could try. And if I answer the phone, I may I may not, be coherent, or if I am, I may cuss you out, but whatever, I ain't feeling no kind of way because I'm going to sleep. I'm waking up, and when I'm waking up, I'm not like in as much pain as I was, so like things are like getting better. And I have those reference points too. So just being able to, like grieve and mourn, like I said, the version of myself that I knew, like,
mm,
yeah, that's, like that's going back to, the initial conversation or definition, when we opened up, was like, mourning a loved one. But I find myself right now just mourning at times, and I'm falling in love every day with, my future self and my present self. But I do mourn my past self at times. I
that
do.
makes sense.
Yeah, I
That
do.
makes sense.
So, from a healthy perspective, yes, allowing myself to cry, allowing myself to lay down when I want to, eat what I want to, get up when I want to, do what I want to, feel what I want to, has been just, I don't know, it's been amazing, and it's been so good, and just, yeah, just fulfilling, really, really fulfilling. Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm.
All right. So, an unhealthy experience of grief for me is with my dad. I kind of gave him an allowance when I was like a kid, and going up into like, my young adulthood because he was deported. And so we didn't really have the internet like we do now, where it's, a click of a button, it's easy to find people. So we were worlds apart. And I made up, like, in my mind that he's out there looking for me, I'm out here looking for him. We'll find each other one day. And actually, I found him through Facebook. And it was wild because I like searched my last name and I was like randomly hitting people up with my same last name. Like, hey, my name is
Mm.
Nikita Sanduka. This is my dad's name. Do you know him? And like somebody was like, oh yeah, he lived right around the corner from me.
Just like that. Oh yeah, for sure, for
Just like
sure.
that.
Yeah, I know him.
And yeah, like I gave him my number and he called and we went out there and we saw him. And when when I left, like that was it. Like I never heard from him again. And my mom would be like, "Well, how do you feel?" And I would just be like, I